I went ahead and cashed in a little vacation time this week, and the Z has been a major benefactor. Guys, I am really excited to kind of show you where we're at right now with the Z. With the 4th of July holiday, I thought, let me cash in a little bit of vacation time, kind of maximize this week. Let me make some real progress on the Z, man, and oh my gosh, have I ever. Let me show you what's up. We still have this bottle and it is still leaking. It's kind of our problem. I have found an excellent replacement. You see how this is slightly angled at the top and flat all the way to the bottom? That's kind of the flaw in this bung right here because it's at the slant. The new one that I bought, it's flat at the top, slanted at the bottom. It's got a smaller neck, so it fits our OEM radiator cap, or I could put a Nismo one or anything like that on there. And unlike this one, the big opening's on the top side and the small one's on the bottom. Right now, the way this is set up, the coolant's coming directly from the block and into here, and then out here to the heater core back to the engine. Now that's fine, but with the opposite way that this will end up being, we can actually go directly from the engine to the heater core to the bottle, and then to the engine, and that is actually going to provide a way better flow and way better hose management for us. So I'm looking forward to that. This was supposed to be here on Friday, the 7th of July. I got a message saying that they're back ordered. It won't be even shipped until the 25th of July. So it's going to be a little bit of extra time before we're driving. And that's fine, because we have lots of other things that we can do, need to do, and should be doing. Let me show you what I've been working on in the meantime. Stuff that I've had laying around on the shelf, stripped out of another Z that I just bought for parts. It had an HID headlight kit. I've gone ahead and mounted that. The HIDs are installed for our low beams, and those things are working amazing, perfect. Got my horns installed, ancient Chinese secret here. These horns would not fit back on. They were either touching the hose clamps or the hose or the body, or when I got them on, they were touching the front bumper, etc., etc. Now, there was a little tiny screw hole right here that's in the frame of the car. However, this metal was slightly angled at a forward. All I did was take a sledgehammer, beat it back about 1 or 2 millimeters, and believe it or not, if you remove the tab off the back of the hella horn, the little stud that sticks out the back has the perfect thread pitch to screw right into the body of the car. And guys, like, could it not fit any more perfect? These hella horns, again, another freebie off of a car that I bought. I didn't go out and buy these. I'm not trying to be like Trendy McTrendy pants. They work, they're horns, they're louder than stock, they're not meepy. So yeah, we've now got horns installed. And the good thing too is once the front end is on, you really don't even see them. Totally excited about that, to have those horns. Check this out. That's right, man. The power steering reservoir. Yesterday I was traveling all over town, man, trying to find a solution to fix our pressure side line for the power steering system. Getting the runaround, trying a bunch of different places. Long story short, everybody can make hydraulic lines, but not everybody could make hydraulic lines with banjo fittings on the side. And then they were being really weird about my exact angles and measurements. Even though I had a template for them, they were still being weird. As I've said it a million times, I love Hawaii, but it is really, really expensive to do anything here. And I started kind of getting into the several $100s for freaking lines for the power steering. And I thought, you know what? I'll bet if I'm careful, delicate, use the right tools, I could probably re-engineer the original 300ZX lines to work on here. And you know what? I did. It may not be the most beautiful setup in the world, but guys, it is working. The one line that's right there kind of twisty and coming straight back this direction, that is the return line, the low pressure line. It runs into a rubber hose to the reservoir, the outlet of the reservoir, the inlet of the power steering right there, and the high pressure side from the Z dips back a little bit. No kinks, no sharp turns. It's nowhere close to that belt, even though it might look so on camera. Just manipulated the line a little bit to kind of get away from the exhaust. And oh yeah, the exhaust, man, is on. And you can see right here, that pipe has been dented in so it misses those banjo fittings. Definitely not a permanent full-time solution. I have concerns about back pressure. Time will tell. Eventually, we'll probably get some sort of macaroni elbow going in right there. That Y pipe is installed. However, we did have to make a slight modification. That Y pipe I actually bought on eBay. I think I paid like 90 bucks for it or something like that. Which is fine because there was no guarantee it was going to fit. I mean, it's made for an R33 Skyline. And if you look at the underside of a Skyline, the way the exhaust routes is very different than a Z. So here are the two pipes. They're very, very far apart right now. One of them has a flex pipe in it. The other one is pretty solid. That one's actually touching the transmission, which I think that's just because it's a $95 eBay pipe. Those two actually come together in a Y collector right here. Once they come together, they go into a 3-inch pipe. I had to cut this off. It actually starts to head upwards towards the body of the car. It was touching on the fuel lines and kind of heading towards the outside of the car. Again, it could be just because it's a $95 eBay pipe, but everything is all good, all fine. Once I actually take this pipe and put it up right there where it's supposed to be, now this outer pipe is running parallel with the fuel lines, which is great. We'll put a little collector piece right here to bring these two into one pipe, and then it'll run a 3-inch pipe all the way back to our X. So I specifically bought this exhaust way back in the day with an X rather than an H, and these are 2.5-inch pipes, and the whole point was to prepare for this swap. I just talked about how we're gonna go 2.5 pipes to a 3-inch collector. It's exactly how it is on the stock GTR, so I'm not worried about back pressure or any craziness like that. But it'll be one 3-inch pipe with like a 45 degree and another 45 degree, and then we're gonna cut this guy right here, and it's gonna be the 3-inch pipe into this collector here, and then it will split to the dual 2.5s, so we can maintain the normal Z look of dual exhaust, because I definitely do not want to go single. Lots of progress, and that's not even it yet, man. One of the best pieces yet is I got the drive shaft done too. And here she is, man. Drive shaft looking pretty fresh and pretty fly. And check this out. This is the coolest little advertisement for the company. Powertrain Industries of Hawaii. And look at this dude like mangled around a drive shaft, man. That's hilarious. But they painted it. It's balanced. I had them put in a brand new U-joint. I actually bought this secondhand. This is a Z1 steel one-piece drive shaft. I bought it secondhand many, many years ago, and the U-joint here was totally jacked up. I went ahead and had this shortened for a custom application. As I said, the engine as it sits in the car is 1/2 inch back. The way this was fitting, it was snug up to the yoke. We needed to chop off a little bit more than that 1/2 inch that we needed, simply because we need to maintain a little extra output shaft that's not fully engaged into the transmission. We had Powertrain Industries cut off 1 inch and an 1/8, about 2.65 centimeters. And yeah, so this thing should be fit and fantastic. I'm not going to put it in right this second just because I don't feel like being under the car right now, but we do have other things that we need to work on. So I mentioned that this time we're going to hook up the electric fan. We're also going to hook up our boost control, both with our Halltech ECU, and why don't we go ahead and take care of the fuel pump too. The first thing I'm going to take care of is the fuel pump. Relatively easy to knock out, shouldn't take much time, and I have everything on hand to go ahead and take care of that, so let's do that. The first thing we need to do is go ahead and expose the pump housing. It's going to be in here, back underneath the carpet. I've never done a fuel pump on a 2+2. It looks like it's right underneath the tire, and that makes sense because that's exactly where I see the fuel tank underneath the car. I don't know if this guy's even going to remain in the car long term. I hate the idea of being stranded, but I guess I gotta weigh out which I hate more. Right here is our door for the fuel pump. I need to go ahead and undo these bolts, expose this. There's some hoses that I need to detach. Go ahead and pull the pump out, and then we'll take a look at the two different pumps and how we need to swap pieces over from one to the other. Easy breezy, lemon squeezy. If you are not too familiar with a fuel pump, this is the entire assembly. So this black cylinder in the middle, that's the actual fuel pump itself. You can see there's lines that are going out that are the feed line. This other one's a return line that just unused fuel can get back into the tank. This is the pickup or the sock. This is what actually sucks up the fuel and it filters it in the process. And then you have the actual float. And this little arm right here, just like a toilet, right? This floats up and it floats down. It triggers an electrical signal on this board, and that's what tells your fuel gauge how empty or full you are. We went ahead and decided to go with a genuine Nissan twin turbo fuel pump. And the reason why is because I looked at a lot of aftermarket solutions that were out there, and really this thing holds its own, man. The general shape of the actual pump itself is exactly the same. You could see though it's got this longer tube and different position on the pickup sock. That's because the actual shape of the two-seaters, so this is a 2+2 because it's got a back seat. The shape of the fuel tank in a two-seater is very, very different, and where the pump sits, it has to go down further to get to the actual bottom of the tank, whereas the tank for the 2+2s, it's a lot flatter and more sandwiched, and so it doesn't have to go down as far. What we have to do is, one, we have to get the pump out of this. We have to change over all the things to make the twin turbo one compliant to fit into our 2+2 tank, mount this pump into this assembly, and then put it all back together. The unit is now fully reassembled and ready to go back in. Too easy of a job, man. But is it just me, or is it unnerving to anybody else that we have electricity submerged in gasoline? For those that were kind of cringing like I was about the cleanliness of my trunk area, I just took some Simple Green elbow grease, a little bit of time, and a rag, and yeah, it is much better and way less cringy back here. The fuel pump is done. That is actually a huge hurdle in the right direction. Not a super difficult job, but a major hurdle nonetheless in the course of this conversion. Done. Next thing I want to do is tackle the ECU wiring that we talked about for the boost control and the fan. But before I could do that, I gotta go run some errands and get a couple things. The day got the better of me. I did not get around to finishing that harness. However, I did run to the store, did a bunch of errands, spent some time teaching my brand new licensed or permitted 16-year-old how to drive a stick. Just went bowling with the family. And then I came back and I said, you know what, let me go through my big box of wires, and found some good stuff. This is all junk wire. Some other things I think I'm gonna use in some way or another. An old 300Z harness, part of an old 300Z harness, a 300Z sub harness, leftover body harness from an old Skyline GTST, different sub harnesses for S13, S14, and then some other power harness and speaker wire. But the one thing that I found that was most valuable out of everything was this relay, the exact relay we need, and the relay socket. It is now pretty late at night, but I'm going to go ahead and work on the wiring harness that I need to harness up from the ECU to the fan and the boost controller, get that all nice and primed and pretty, and then we'll come back together to install it all. It's been a couple days, I cry, and I actually got the wiring harness done, man. It turned out pretty sweet, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really happy with it. I was able to buy a roll of heat shrink, and I just fed all the wires through it and then pulled them out at certain places. And yeah, it's not completely finished. Still got to attach this relay portion, but basically this is what we got. This is gonna go inside the car to the Halltech right there. This is a ground. This is where we're gonna put not only our 30 amp fuse, but also this relay here. And what the relay provides is basically a power source that goes to the fan, but it's switched based on the ECU's on or off signal, which is that designated by that little tiny trap door thing on the picture. So That should be good to go. I didn't attach all that stuff yet because I got to run this through the firewall. As the harness continues, I got this piece here that's going to go ahead and pull power. I got to cut it to length once I figure out exactly where the battery is. All the rest of this keeps going on. This piece breaks out here for the boost control solenoid. And this piece keeps on going for the ground to the fan and to the fan itself. Speaking of the boost control solenoid, it is right here. We are using the OEM RB26 factory boost control solenoid, and again, this is going to be controlled by the Halltech ECU. There is actually no connection for this on the original RB engine ECCS harness. I guess this runs through the body harness, but it's still controlled by the ECU. I'm really not certain. And one other cool thing, our black couplers came in, so the intake is finally good to go. And one thing I totally forgot to talk to you guys about while I was all up in this area with the power steering is check out the turbine side of our turbos. Aw, snap. If you ever plan on doing a heat blanket on the turbine side, make sure you do it when you're building the engine and when the turbo's off and it's easy. This was a redonkulous pain in the butt to get these blankets on. Got them on there nonetheless, and yeah, that should definitely be helping out. It is a hot day here in Hawaii, man, and it is especially humid, and so I didn't really take you inside while I was kind of finishing up this wiring because I'm just a hot, sweaty mess inside the floor area of the passenger side. But we're now to the part where we're going to wire up the Halltech, so I kind of want to show you that. We've got the wire coming into our firewall here, or the harness that we made, the sub harness. I've got the ground wire here, and this ground wire specifically runs to the relay, which is going to switch the fan. Here is the relay and the relay socket, and you can see right here I've got an inline fuse. Now this is what's coming directly from the battery. It'll have a 30 amp fuse here, which will then go to our relay. And then once the power is switched on, that will send the power out. I wanted to go ahead and put this stuff inside the cabin. Keep it clean, keep it simple, keep it hidden. One thing I don't like is when you have like a battery compartment area that's just cluttered with a bunch of extra wires and junk. So I definitely didn't want to have that going on. These are the 3 wires that go to the Halltech. The red one is going to be the power switch for the electrical fan. The black is going to be a ground for the boost controller, and the greenish blue is the power for the boost controller. Let me get the kit for the Halltech computer because it'll actually wire into this port right here, and they provide the plug and the pinout thingies. Let me get that and we'll finish that up. As always, referencing the instruction manual, and here in the back of the instruction manual for the Halltech, this is where it describes auxiliary connector. And it comes with this little baggie right here and this extra connector right there. This is the pinouts and the pins that it corresponds to on the actual ECU itself. So looking at all the different options, you got DPOs, DPIs, AVIs, DSOs. We look at all the different options that we have, and this is the one that we want. The digital pulsed output is used for running thermofans and boost control solenoid. What I want to do is go ahead and wire up both of what we have, pin 5 and pin 6. Plus we need a ground. Woot woot! Got the ground, the boost control, and the fan all into this thing. Eventually we're going to have even more connections that will go into this plug. Once we go ahead and switch from narrowband to wideband sensors, we'll have to actually wire in our wideband controller into this as well, and it will be able to interface with the Halltech. So now all we do is just put it inside this auxiliary port right here. For those that are wondering, the reason why I'm using the stock boost control is because I could do it through the computer. Because then I didn't have to buy a bunch of different components. I could have one thing that would just do everything for me. Efficiency, cost savings, all around smart buy. Let me get all this hooked up, and then I think we're gonna wrap it up. It's quite a bit later now. It's actually dark outside. I've been working a lot to try and get a good functional test on the ECU by going in and manipulating the values on the coolant temp based on what it's sitting at right now, and I can't get it to trigger, but I do have good news. Once again, here is our circuit the sub-harness that we built. Now, I was incorrect. Turns out that the Halltech ECU actually doesn't give 12 volts that would then go through the relay and then to ground. It's the other way around. So we have to provide 12 volts to the relay, and then the ECU grounds out the 12 volts, which triggers the relay. To simulate that, right now the ECU, like it's simulated a ground out. If we just go onto our hot wire that's supplying our voltage. Oh yeah. All right, so the relay kicks, the fans kick on in front. That's all good and all fine. Again, I was inside the ECU and kept trying to get it to trigger, because right now it registers the car as being about 80 degrees. I was trying to get it to trigger at 65 and it just won't do it. So I don't know if it only works when the car's running. That doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. I can't get it running. So more troubleshooting with that, but at least we know that our wiring is good to go. This circuit is good. We just need to troubleshoot the actual tuning in the Halltech, and I think we're gonna be good to go. Serious ton of progress this week, guys. Serious ton of progress. All I have left to do now is to get this coolant system finished, and like I said, that part's not going to be in till late July, early August. We're going to have to go on a bit of a hiatus just because I honestly can't think of anything that we really need to do together, and I can't get the exhaust worked on until this car's running right, because of course they're gonna have to test for leaks and all that stuff, and I don't want to tow it the way it is right now. We're gonna wait till the coolant system's finished. Everything's kind of shifting towards mid to late August to get this on its first road test, but guys, we are so very close. In the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and start working on things like filling up the transmission, get the drive shaft put in, bleed all the brakes, bleed the clutch, get everything prepared. Everything else is ready to go, man. I mean, it's amazingly ready to go. And oh yeah, you remember a while back when I asked you guys about your opinion on the hood struts, whether we should go chrome or black? Well, we ended up going black. I just got a package in yesterday from Concept Z Performance. Cool beans, thanks Cause as always, and team, it's not just a one-man show. But we went with the black brackets, and I splurged a little bit, and check this out. Oh snap, that's right, a carbing rear and a carbing front. We also got the struts right here and all the other goody goods and a couple other things, so I'm excited about all that. So yeah guys, I'm gonna go ahead and work on all the little nitpicky things. Join me back, stay tuned. If you're not subbed already, make sure you sub. Stay tuned for TueZday Garage. Come back around early August, and that's when we should be able to finish up this coolant system and take on its maiden voyage. As always, thanks for watching, amici. Ciao a tutti, and aloha. Bye-bye.